So this is Automate Yourself. Hi, I'm John. That's not what you're supposed to be seeing. Hi, I'm John. This is Automate Yourself. I'm also known as genehack, but I go by mine. It's not my hat. So I'm a busy guy. I got a lot going on in my life. I've got a new puppy. I got 2 kids. I got a wife. Still a long-standing Pittsburgh Perl Workshop widow. I got a job. I work for Infinity Interactive. It's a pretty good gig. And I've got a lot of hobbies. I've got some Perl modules I maintain that I've just kind of fallen into over the years. Trying to learn some closure, maybe some scale-up, maybe write some stuff in Go, a little node action on the side, trying to branch out. I like to read and hike and cook and run and bicycling. I got a lot of hobbies, and I got a lot of balls in here. I don't have time for trivial nonsense. So I gotta automate myself. I gotta come up with tools to help me do stuff faster and better and just automate myself. It's the only photo in the talk that I can take. So the guiding principle here that I'm approaching all of this with is the principle of don't make me think, right? Stuff should just work, it should just happen. This is my don't make me think face. Or you made me think face. So I deal with a lot of different environments. And really the guiding principle here is uniformity is good. I shouldn't have to think about where I'm doing something. All my environments should be set up the same as much as possible. I should just be able to get on a box. It doesn't matter if it's this laptop or the server in my office or my Linode PPS. Everything should just work the same way all the time. So the key to this is, you gotta have your shell configs the same everywhere. Put them in Git. Just have one config, right, for all your machines. Check your capabilities. So don't check things based on hostname. Check things based on whether or not something can do what you want. And conditionalize on capabilities. And put documentation in your shell configs. Because 1, other people can steal from them and learn stuff. And 2, when you come back in 6 months and try to figure out why something is there, you'll know. Because otherwise you won't. The other tool that I use a lot is something I wrote called GitGot. Sure. No, really, it's kind of, it's organic, because I'm from Oregon. So, now we're going to come to the ill-advised live demo portion of the talk, part 1. So the easiest way to explain GitGot is to just show you how it works. So the base command is actually called got. Got is a batch-based system for doing stuff across multiple Git repositories. Okay, so the way to remember the name is Git is about 1 repo, right? Got is about all the repos. That's why it's the O. All the repos. So got is just like Git. It's a subcommand-based type tool. And if you just run the base tool, you get a list of everything it does, which is obviously too big to show. That must make things smaller. Then things just get smaller. Anyway, so got will show you what repositories it maintains. So this is just some projects that I have locally checked out. You can see pages output by default, which is nice. And Got will show you the status of all your repositories, whether they're dirty or whether they're up to date. Got will update all your repositories for you. So this is actually going out and doing GitHub in the background, Git pull. Oh, yeah, that repository I can check out on the machine that's in my phone that you can't see now. Okay, so Got is pretty cool. The other thing that was recently added by Guru was a subcommand called mux. So what mux does is if you give it the name of a project, it'll start up a new window in your tmux session, name for that project. And then if you go to a different window and run that same command again, it takes you back to that same window, right? So you can always pop up a project-specific tmux window to work in and come back to it later. There's a patch, I think, pending that I need to merge that does this on a session level. So you can actually have a tmux session devoted to a particular project, and when you run that command, you'll switch into that session out of the one you're currently in. This is pretty useful, and I use it all the time. The other thing I use all the time is there's an update and status command. This runs update and then status. So usually what I do is, like Sunday morning, I'll sit down and just run that across every machine and make sure that I've got everything tidied up and checked in. So my weekend routine. There we go. Another command that I wrote that I don't use that much anymore, but it was really useful when I was setting machines up, is called app mise en place. This is a principle from cooking, that when you start out and you're getting ready to cook something, you should get everything prepped and ready ahead of time. Mise en place means everything in its place. So what mise does is it manages symlinks for you. So it doesn't do anything because all my symlinks are in place, but if I remove like my VimRC, oh wait, if I remove that Vim symlink, mise recreates it. And mise works off of dot files that are in project-specific directories. So that rule is right there. It says, link this directory back into my home directory. It'll tell you if you can't make a symlink. It's generally nice. And again, page output by default. Finally, one of the things I couldn't live without, I didn't actually write. It was written by someone whose name I can't remember, and it's in the closing part of the slide, so I'll say it then. It's called Smart CD. I love Smart CD. Smart CD lets you set up hooks in your shell to run particular commands on change directory. The thing that I have implemented in this, that's in my shell config that's on Git, is a series of switchable aliases. So if I switch into, God help me, an SVN project directory, I get aliases set up for pull and push that go to SVN commands. If I switch back into a Git hosted project, the same aliases are rebound to the Git equivalents. So I don't have to remember which revision control system I'm working with. I just remember that pull brings stuff down, push sends stuff up, a status shows me what the status is. I really recommend Smart CD. Also wrote a small tool. Who uses Sketch? Who used Skitch before they screwed it all up? Yeah, there's a really nice piece of software that lets you take screenshots and then upload them somewhere, and they totally broke it in a recent revision, and it's horrible. So I continue my tradition of taking software and replacing an I with an O, and extending it. So this isn't actually Skotch, it's broken, but what Skotch does is it lets you right-click on something, and then it uses app notepad behind the scenes so basically, when you run Skotch, it uploads this stuff to my server and it puts the URL for it in the clipboard. So I can immediately send important work information, like my current status, to the people I work with in our internal chat system. Critical stuff. I also have a series of app builders that I've written, only one of which is on CPAN. This is in the same sort of thought as Perl Brew and Perl ENV, is that if you have to build something a lot and you have to maintain multiple versions of it, you shouldn't be doing that by hand. One of the modules I maintain for my sins is Git wrapper. which means I constantly get weird bug reports from people who are using like some antiquated version of Git that existed for about a week. So I wrote at GitGitter to automate the process of downloading and building arbitrary versions of Git and allowing me to switch between them. Similarly, I run Emacs. I've got a script to build Emacs the way I like it so that I can run that in any machine I get on. And then Perl Brew and Perl ENV, everybody knows what those are. If you don't, you should check them out and start using one of them. I also use this nice tool called the Silver Searcher. Again, I didn't write this, I just love it. This is like ACK, but it's written in C, so it's hundreds of times faster. You don't actually notice how slow ACK really is, or ACK, in day-to-day usage until you switch to AG, which is what the command is actually called. It's much faster and much nicer. Finally, the biggest favor you can do yourself in terms of automating yourself is to fix your editor. Whatever editor you use, if it's Vim, if it's Emacs, spend some serious time configuring it. Take a day and really think about it. And as you're using your editor, think about how you're using it and what it could be doing better. It's pretty easy nowadays. People have written a lot of nice tools. It's easy to integrate stuff like syntax checking and whether or not something is going to successfully compile, even for Perl, into your editor. So you can immediately know if you've made a stupid typo or an error and not find out about it 5 minutes later and confuse yourself when you're trying to run something that you thought should work. Similarly, you should really strongly consider, if you're doing things with your editor that aren't efficient, add some negative affordances to your editor to encourage you to do things the right way. So by negative affordance, I basically mean annoy yourself. So I'm trying to get better about using the built-in Emacs commands for moving around in a file instead of just using the arrow keys, because Emacs has really good support for jumping around based on the structure of your code. Most of the time I just use the arrow keys because I'm lazy and I don't remember the bindings all the time. So if I use too many arrow keys in a row, it beeps at me. And then it helpfully shows me a key binding that I could be using instead. It's easy to add stuff like that. People who use Vim frequently unbind the arrow keys completely to encourage them to use the home keywords for moving around.
When I first learned Emacs, I aliased the I to Emacs.
I have, the other thing that I do that if you use Emacs you should really consider doing is I use Emacs in daemon mode. So you can start Emacs up once and then reconnect to it. It completely obliviates the it takes 30 seconds for Emacs to start up, and I find that annoying issue. But yeah, if I run VI, I end up in Emacs. Also, that is how I spell Emacs. Again, stuff that you do all the time, make it short, make it easy, make it quick. I'm going to assume that that's just something from the graphic file. So that's the end of what I wanted to talk to you about today. Everything I talked about that I said that I did is either on CPAN or on my GitHub, except Smart CD, which is on CXReg's GitHub, and the Silver Searcher, which is on GG Breer's GitHub. The best compliment I have for these two tools is that I have not forked the repos. I just use the author's repos because the tools just work and I don't want to change them, so I don't need their code. And I'd love to talk to you about stuff that you've done or things that you think that I could be doing to further automate myself. So grab me on the hallway chat. Thanks.